In a country this large and diverse, there's truly something for everybody. Welcome to MojoTravels, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 places to visit in Canada in 2020. Are you a fan of our videos? Be sure to subscribe to MojoTravels and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at some of the most interesting, beautiful, and enticing places you should consider for your next journey to the Great White North. Number 20. Tobermory, Ontario. A community located at the northernmost tip of the Bruce Peninsula, Tobermory takes its name from a harbor in Scotland. The cliffs of the Niagara escarpment never fail to make an impression, while the crystal clear waters have earned it a reputation as the freshwater scuba diving capital of the world. Not only is Lake Huron a beautiful turquoise blue here at the mouth of the Georgian Bay, but there are also a number of shipwrecks to explore in the area. Kite surfing, kayaking, hiking in the Bruce Peninsula National Park, there's really no shortage of activities to keep a traveler busy. Number 19. Haines Junction, Yukon Territory. Not for the faint of heart, but offering pristine natural northern beauty, Haines Junction is the perfect home base for the adventure of a lifetime. The main attraction here is Kluane National Park and Reserve, which lies just west of the village. This 8,499 square mile area of protected land was established in 1972 and encompasses the highest mountain in all of Canada, Mount Logan. Look in any direction and you'll think you're looking at a painting or desktop background. That is how stunning the rugged landscape is. Amid the glaciers, mountains, creeks, and hardy greenery, you'll find a whole new appreciation for the Great White North, especially during the annual Northern Nights Festival. Number 18. Winnipeg, Manitoba. Manitoba, like neighboring Saskatchewan, often goes overlooked by international travelers and Canadians alike. But Manitoba is worthy of your attention, especially its capital city of Winnipeg. The culinary scene is woefully underrated, but foodies are beginning to take note of the exciting things that young chefs and restaurateurs are bringing to the table. The city also boasts distinctive architecture, a plethora of cultural festivals year-round, and for the educationally minded, it just so happens to be home to the Royal Canadian Mint. Plus, after losing their NHL hockey franchise in 1996, the city finally brought the Jets home in 2011. And really, you can't visit a major Canadian city without experiencing the nation's favorite sport firsthand. Number 17. St. John, New Brunswick. This maritime province is one that travelers often simply pass through on their way to PEI and Nova Scotia. But let the record show that New Brunswick, as a province, is home to beautiful beaches, welcoming people, and seafood of high caliber. Though not the province's capital, and no longer its most populated as of 2016, St. John has distinguished itself as an underappreciated cultural hub that just so happens to be on the cutting edge when it comes to green initiatives. It's an extremely walkable city, characterized by historic architecture and businesses that appeal to modern tastes. From restaurants that understand the value of quality local ingredients to a booming craft beer and coffee scene, St. John will surprise you. Number 16. Haida Gwaii, British Columbia. Should you want to add this to your West Coast itinerary, you're gonna want to plan ahead. A UNESCO World Heritage Site, Guayhanas National Park Reserve prioritizes preservation above all else. As such, only 1,800 are granted access in a given calendar year. Haida Gwaii is an archipelago that consists of two primary islands, Moresby Island and Graham Island. As for the protected portion of the land, it covers 570 square miles and is home to a number of subspecies that cannot be found anywhere else in the world, including the dusky shrew, Peel's peregrine falcon, and the Haida Gwaii black bear. As such, the islands of Haida Gwaii have come to be referred to as the Galapagos Islands of Canada. Number 15. Churchill, Manitoba. For those who aren't afraid of the cold and have a passion for wildlife, a trip to Churchill makes for a unique, once-in-a-lifetime trip. A small town hugging the coast of the Hudson Bay, Churchill, Manitoba is home to less than 1,000 people. For a few months of the year, however, the population gets larger and notably more hairy. Known as the polar bear capital of the world, Churchill plays host to these remarkable creatures while they wait for the bay to freeze over. Polar bears are typically solitary creatures, except during the unique circumstances that arise in Churchill during the late summer to fall months. Between bears, birds, and beluga whales, this tiny town attracts over 10,000 eco-tourists every year. Number 14. Fogo Island, Newfoundland and Labrador. Nowhere in Newfoundland is the overall travel experience more surprising and unique than on Fogo. The largest offshore island in the province, Fogo is just shy of 92 square miles of rocky green land that's rich in history, culture, and welcoming locals. The island is home to a handful of little communities that are fiercely proud of their heritage and this rugged landscape in which they've put down roots. From the colorful clapboard houses to the stunning coastline, Fogo Island is picture perfect. Depending on the time of year, you can even spy a passing iceberg. And at the stunning Fogo Island Inn, you can taste locally sourced dishes from celebrated Newfoundland chef Jonathan Gouchou. Number 13, Penticton, British Columbia. Here in this dry and sunny Okanagan Valley region of British Columbia, fruit orchards have slowly but steadily transformed into vineyards, giving birth to a booming and now world-renowned wine country. As such, the Okanagan Valley has become a major tourist destination, one that's especially popular with retirees. But there's arguably no place where the many pleasures of the Okanagan Valley can be appreciated quite so well as in Penticton. This city of under 50,000 people invites you to come and indulge in fine wines, while also exploring an abundance of green space, hiking trails, and bike paths. This is a city that knows how to have fun while maintaining an ethos of sustainability. Number 12, Les Îles de la Madeleine, Quebec. As you travel across Canada, you encounter a number of truly distinct cultures. In few places is this more apparent than in Les Îles de la Madeleine, also known as the Magdalen Islands. Part of the larger Quebec region known as Gaspésie-Îles de la Madeleine, the Magdalen Islands are largely populated by Acadians, the descendants of French colonists who settled in the maritime provinces. While technically a part of Quebec, the Magdalen Islands are geographically closer to the Maritimes, and this results in a very distinct culture. This archipelago boasts beautiful red sandstone cliffs, brilliant green fields, and hills and sandy beaches. But above all else, it's the welcoming locals, with their love of music and food, that will leave a lasting impression. Number 11, Victoria, British Columbia. Smaller and distinctly less busy than Vancouver, Victoria is the sort of place where you can enjoy life at a more relaxed pace, but without ever running out of things to do. The city itself, being of such modest size, is extremely walkable, and there's no shortage of waterfront and green spaces to enjoy. The colorful houseboats at Fisherman's Wharf make for an eye-catching sight, and the downtown area is similarly charming. Though there are some high-rises, the streets are primarily made up of colorful Victorian-style 2- to 4-story buildings. Shops, restaurants, cafes, pubs, hotels, theaters, there's enough here to keep a traveler occupied for more than one trip. Victoria is also home to the oldest Chinatown in Canada, which is a must-visit. Number 10, Niagara Falls, Ontario. This destination is one that requires very little introduction. Niagara Falls is one of Canada's most iconic landmarks. Located right on the US border and shared with New York State, this epic waterfall never fails to make an impression. Towering over 160 feet tall and moving at an average of 85,000 cubic feet of water per second, the falls are hard to fathom. But even more difficult to wrap your mind around is the history of death-defying feats that have been attempted here, dating all the way back to 1829. What would compel people to try to ride over the falls in various types of barrels we'll never fully understand, but it certainly makes for a fascinating history lesson. Plus, the Niagara region has plenty of other attractions, and is renowned for its local wines. Number 9, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Like the aforementioned Manitoba, Saskatchewan is a province that far too many people simply pass through on their way to the east or west coast. But the province's most populated city is an underappreciated gem of a metropolis that is only now finally beginning to get the attention it deserves. With dozens upon dozens of annual festivals and celebrations, there's really no such thing as a bad time of year to visit. The Riverside District is particularly stunning and is one of the city's greatest assets. As part of the Meewasin Trail, it features walking paths on both sides of the water. Winters in Saskatoon are cold, but the locals know how to make the most of it with sledding, skating, cross-country skiing, and more. And they'll be only too happy to show you how. Number 8, Quebec City, Quebec. Speaking of cities that know how to have a good time even when the temperature dips well below freezing, there are few places more enchanting during the holiday season than Quebec City. The historic city of Old Quebec, which became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1985, looks like it was ripped from the pages of a fairy tale, especially when there's a fresh layer of snow adorning the trees, cobblestone streets, and historic architecture. The Chateau Frontenac is Quebec City's most iconic hotel. It dates back to 1893 and serves as the city's central landmark and the defining feature of its skyline. During the wintertime, however, the city's world-famous ice hotel is also worth a visit, even if spending the night is beyond your budget. Foodies in particular will find much to appreciate in this culinarily inclined city. Number 7, Tofino, British Columbia. If you can't get enough beach time and like to take life at a slightly more relaxed pace, Tofino is the place for you. Situated on the southern edge of Clayoquot Sound on Vancouver Island's west coast, Tofino is arguably Canada's most celebrated surfing destination, and just an all-around charming place. Boasting 22 miles of surfable beach and extremely agreeable weather, it's little wonder as to why this small village of only 2,000 residents swells to many times that size during the summer months. More than just a beach town, though, Tofino has developed a reputation as a thoroughly authentic getaway, where one is hard-pressed to find a chain amid the local-run businesses. And everything these local businesses do, they do with care, from food and drinks to sustainability efforts and encouraging the arts. Number 6, Banff, Alberta. This town in Western Canada is, to put it in a single word, surreal. The scenic mountain views make you feel absolutely tiny by comparison, and yet they are so spectacularly beautiful, you're going to feel perfectly at peace with your relatively small place in the world. The town shares its name with the surrounding national park, which, having been established in 1885, is the nation's oldest. Like neighboring Lake Louise, this awe-inspiring getaway puts the environment first, and that commitment to sustainability can be felt in every business you deal with. During the winter season, there are few places with better skiing and snowboarding anywhere in Canada, while during the summer months, there is a plethora of outdoor activities to enjoy. After a long day, the hot springs are the perfect way to relax in the evening, regardless of the time of year. Number 5, Prince Edward Island. It might be Canada's smallest province, but PEI packs a whole lot of appeal into its modest footprint. Charlottetown, the province's capital and the larger of its two cities, is likely to be the center point of your visit. But given that the island province is so small, you can easily explore the entirety of it in a single trip. Now, with that being said, after your first visit to the Garden of the Gulf, we're fairly certain you'll want to make a return trip, and here are a few reasons why. The people are just about the most hospitable you've ever met. The deep red sand of its shores is beautiful, and its beaches are among the best in Canada. The most famous of them being Singing Sands, so named because of how the sand squeaks underfoot. Add in the lighthouses, local art, seafood, and scenic drives, and you've got the perfect maritime vacation. Number 4, Montreal, Quebec. Quebec City might be the province's most picturesque city, but Montreal is by far the most vibrant. Like its neighbor to the north, Montreal knows how to make the most of cold weather with a plethora of winter activities, including Igloo Fest and Fête des Neiges, or the Snow Festival, and Montréal en Lumière. And when the weather begins to warm up, that's when the festival floodgates really open. Spring through fall often feels like one big party in the city. Even if your trip fails to line up with the Jazz Fest or Just for Laughs, the city's legendary nightlife is sure to keep you plenty entertained. During the warm summer days, you can't go wrong strolling the city's many picturesque parks or indulging in Montreal's top-notch culinary scene. There are more restaurants per capita in Montreal than anywhere else in Canada. And across North America, it's second only to NYC. Number 3, Peggy's Cove, Nova Scotia. You might be wondering how a place that some of you have never heard of cracked the top 3 destinations on our list. Simple. Not every traveler is looking for the hustle and bustle of a big city, or a carefully crafted resort destination like Banff. When you're in the mood for a more simple, scenic trip to Canada, you can't go wrong with this hidden gem in the Maritimes. A rural community on the southern shores of Nova Scotia, the settlement dates back to 1868. Historically, fishing was the primary economic driver. But while tourism has largely replaced that, the quintessential charms of Peggy's Cove remain untarnished by its ever-increasing draw. The starring attraction of the area is Peggy's Point Lighthouse. But really, it's the deep connection of locals to their fishing routes, coupled with their undying appreciation for the ocean, that makes it so enchanting. Plus, the entire area is just picturesque. Number 2, Toronto, Ontario. While a few days in Peggy's Cove sounds like a great way to recharge and reconnect, there's no denying the appeal of Canada's most populated city and economic epicenter. Toronto is a multicultural metropolis, and that diversity is very much a part of this city's appeal. There's really no cuisine that you can't find a great example of with enough research or exploration. And while Montreal and a certain West Coast city give it a run for its money in this regard, there's no denying that Toronto is the country's cultural hub in terms of the arts. It's produced the country's biggest musical acts and remains the best place to catch up-and-comers. From the historic Distillery District to Kensington Market, there's no shortage of fun neighborhoods to explore. And sure, a trip up the CN Tower might be touristy, but there's no arguing with that view. Number 1, Vancouver, British Columbia. Vancouver might not be Canada's most populated city or its capital, but people have been flocking there, both to live and visit. And it's easy to understand why. Though it doesn't get the hot summers Montreal does, it also doesn't have to deal with the frigid cold winters, making it an extremely comfortable place to be pretty much year-round. It's a bustling, exciting city that's on the cutting edge of food, fashion, music, and art, and yet the surrounding area remains distinctly wild, ensuring that nature lovers and outdoor enthusiasts never need to go far for their next great adventure. And really, how many destinations, be it in Canada or elsewhere for that matter, can you get the best of both worlds in one place? A city rich in green space, museums, markets, world-class restaurants, and more, Vancouver is a must-visit. Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MojoTravels. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.